hard knock life for us.
Clearly, one of the most interesting characters in the show is Miss Hannigan. You want to tell me a little bit about her?
You have to have a villain in the show, and Miss Hannigan has really become the archetype villain. It's so interesting that I have heard people refer to, she's a Miss Hannigan, as somebody who really is a very unhappy person. And it was very smart to make her the leader of the orphanage. And it's so wonderful, in fact, when in one of the songs, the littlest girl in the pretends to be chugging from a flask. You see that happening because obviously Miss Hannigan doesn't think that the girls know that she's a drinker on the side, but oh yes, they do. You can't get much past kids. So, but she's as much as a villain as she is, she's a comic character because she has so many funny lines. At one point, when Grace Farrell comes in and wants to take her to spend a couple of weeks with Daddy Warbucks, Miss Hannigan says no, she's a drunk. Well, I mean, really, that's projection to say the least. But I mean, a little girl is not a drunk. I mean, it's also wonderful with the tiniest character infuriates Miss Hannigan, and she says to the kid, "Your days are numbered." And this little innocent girl looking up at her, so there's a lot of funny lines. But indeed, she does have a larcenous side, and she does come from a family where there is larceny. There's her brother Rooster, who indeed is willing to commit a crime. And they also have a lyric, "Mother, we know you're down there listening," which is interesting. They're acknowledging the fact that their mother obviously was a ne'er-do-well to some degree to wind up in hell. The Book of Annie is sensational for one specific reason. Everybody walked at the beginning. Everybody walked into that theater expecting we were going to see a spoof. We had no idea we were going to be emotionally involved with these people. So we never expected to see a kid we would care about so much, who's so clever, who really has an optimism. And this was at a time when a lot of people didn't have optimism. It wasn't that long after Watergate. It was right around the time that Ford to New York City dropped dead, all that kind of stuff. We needed a good boost, and Annie provided that. But the emotions that we felt while watching these people that we never expected to have when walking in a musical, A Little Orphan Annie, was significant.
My last question about Annie is about the dog.
Well, there's no question that that Sandy and Annie is a wonderful device. Let me point out that there is a flaw in the show involving Sandy, and that is suddenly at the end of the show, he pops out of the box as a Christmas present. Well, it's never been discussed with Daddy Warbucks that indeed and he had a dog or even a passing relationship with the dog. Where does that dog come from? And I will say that in James Lapine's revival, it's very smart that he has Grace Farrell notice the dog when the dog is running away. And so at least that gives some sort of credence to the fact that it happened.
Peter Felicia's Broadway appears in every issue of the Broadway Maven's Weekly Blast.